We're going to go now to our presentation. I invited Mary Ann Hytken here from English Express Empowered. I first learned about what they were doing, I don't know, a few years back, and I was just really impressed by her effort to help people learn English so they can be more integrated into the community in terms of being able to get jobs and communicate with the rest of us who are pretty monolingual. And I just was wondering how things were going for them during the pandemic, because these classes are so important. So I asked her to come today and tell us what's going on for them and what they do. So Mary Ann, thank you so much for joining us. Please, it's all yours.
Thanks, Maggie. Can everyone hear me, first of all?
Oh, let me just say, if you'd like her to be bigger for this, if you go up there, I think you can pin her video if you click, and then that makes her bigger. I think you can do that.
Don't make me too big. I'm already 6'3".
We're not gonna make you taller. We're just Anyway, take it.
All right, thank you so much, Maggie, for having me here this morning. I always imagined one day I would speak to Rotary. I just never knew it would be this way. So a little bit about myself, which will give you a deeper understanding of why English Express exists. I started my teaching career at Humboldt State University with a fabulous group of Japanese students. In the past, no longer, Japanese students used to come to HSU every summer to learn English. So that's where I started, gosh, 40 years ago. And fast forward, I graduated from HSU and I wanted to get away from Humboldt as far as I could, like many young adults do. So I landed in San Diego and taught a number of years there. And every class had 45 students. These were middle school classes. And I was teaching, of course, English as a second language. And that's really where I learned my craft, was having 45 students every hour come through, 98% of them from Mexico. So I also picked up a little Spanish there. From there, I flew to the other side of the planet and taught in Tanzania. If you are familiar with the African continent, you know that's just south of Kenya. And I taught at an American international school. These schools are all over the planet, taught English and ESL. The gift there was not only being in Africa, but also the faculty, the staff, and the students were from 50 different countries on that one campus. It was a very rich and educational experience networking with those other teachers. And of course, it was just a fabulous overall experience. After that, I returned to California via 1 year teaching in the Bay Area, Fremont. And then I was just missing the Redwoods. I'm a Redwoods girl. My family's been here 5 generations now. We started as loggers out at Falk's Claim, and we're still here. So came back to Humboldt and landed a teaching contract at Winship Middle School, again, English. And then children and family came, and I stayed home. I actually homeschooled my children for a number of years, which was fabulous. Just an amazing experience as a parent and a teacher. And when the children grew up and they did transition into public school, they wanted to check that out. They did great there. Now they're young adults. I went back into education, but because I already had teenagers at home, I finally decided not to teach teenagers, which at that point I'd been doing 30 years. And so I taught adults English as a second language through College of the Redwoods. So I kind of came full circle after all those years, having started at Humboldt State with the Japanese adults, finishing at College of the Redwoods. One semester, I received the news from CR that they were canceling their entire ESL department for a semester. And my students were dismayed. They said, "Teacher, please, we'll pay you." Well, when I asked them, I was just curious, what could you pay? They said, $3 or $4. And no. So that gave me an opportunity to create something for them. And during that past semester, my final semester with CR, I realized something. The students were coming to me after the weekend and asking me questions like, where can I find an immigration attorney? Where can I find food? Where can I get medical help or childcare? And I found that I was really excited about helping them with these, you know, connecting them with these types of services, but it wasn't my role as a college professor per se. So I was helping them with that, but it was increasing. The other thing that was happening is after we would come back again from a weekend, I'd ask them, what did you do? They stayed home. Next weekend, what did you do? They stayed home. And I'm thinking, wow, the Redwood Coast Music Festival was happening, and the Morris Graves just had this great thing going on at Clendenin's Apple Farm, and the Madaket had a special on the tour. And oh gosh, we got, you know, the Carson Mansion. They don't even know where it is, you know, because they're staying home. So this was another thing that was happening that was exciting me as their teacher. So going back to CR canceling that semester, I found a place at Jefferson Community Center where we could meet to hold classes. And I decided to offer them not only English classes, but also direct connections to the community services that they desperately needed, and also field trips to introduce them to the new place that they're calling home. And it was a great success. I took a leap of faith, literally quit my contract with CR, single mother with 2 kids, not much savings. My father actually purchased this whiteboard for me, Charles Hytken. Some of you might know him. He taught 3 generations of kids music here in Humboldt County. I still use the whiteboard now in my Zoom classes. And those are the 3 pillars today and for the past 5 years of English Express. And after that first month of teaching, St. Joseph heard about what was happening at Jefferson with the local immigrant population, gave us our first grant. And to date, we've had 6 different local foundations at different times fund the program. And of course, we do our own fundraising. Probably the best testimony that I've received from a student was one line: "This is like therapy for me." And really, this English Express dream started with a little girl who was about 10. And one summer here in Eureka, the next door neighbors had an exchange student from Japan. And that summer, her father bought a ping pong table from Sears. And every morning, that Japanese boy would jump over the fence that separated their 2 houses. And the little girl and the little boy would play ping pong almost every morning that whole summer. This would be like in the early 70s. He spoke no English. And of course, the girl didn't speak any Japanese, but one thing they had in common was the joy of playing ping pong. And they laughed and laughed and laughed. And they still didn't speak much of each other's language by the end of the summer. And on his last day in Eureka, before he flew back to Japan, it was a summer exchange student program, he knocked on her door and he had this little doll for her. And of course, you know, that little girl was me. And I think you can see it. This is a little porcelain doll from Japan. So I've had this now for about 46 years. And she's gone all over the world with me. And that's really the beginning of English Express, that desire to welcome people from other cultures, to connect with them, to welcome them. So this English Express is really my heart song, my soul song, that I've been very lucky, very blessed, if you will, to create here in Humboldt and to have fabulous support for. So very briefly, going back to those 3 pillars, I won't talk about the English part, that's my profession. The connecting community services. So I see Food for People is here today. We've had over 90, is it 90? Yes, we've had about 90 guest speakers come into the classroom since we opened in June 2016. And that's how I connect the students to the community services. So when Food for People came, they'd come several times. They would come at the very end of class introduce themselves. And again, there's that personal connection, and it's in a safe environment for the students, and say, this is what we have to offer you. This is how you can access it. And guess what? I have the paperwork here today. We can fill it out right now for whoever who's interested. So now that we're in COVID times, we have a very active Facebook page. I think we're going on 3,000 people on the Facebook page, most of them immigrants, many of them local, most of them local. And they know they can go to the English Express Facebook page and see flyers from all these different community services in English and Spanish. If they're not in Spanish, I have a translator on board who can do a brief, very brief translation. And so Food for People and their distribution list has been on there for going on 5 years now, as well as many other different community service flyers. The field trips now, that's been a real heartbreak. We've had over 30 field trips in the last 4 years. And yes, we did get into the Carson Mansion 2 times. Thank you, John Garrick. I don't know if he's here today. John and I played in the jazz band together and went to school together, and catechism, no, Catholic church together. So anyway, a lot of connections. We did do the Redwood Coast Music Festival a couple of times, and we did the museum, Dick Taylor Craft Chocolates, the pottery studio in Old Town and made pottery, just everything I could think of. And growing up here and all the connections, it was so doable. And I was so happy to see how welcoming Humboldt County has been when I've contacted different businesses about setting up a field trip, and almost all of them were donated for free to the program. I would have to say the Carson Mansion was probably a favorite. The Madaket we've been on several times. That was a favorite. And of course, Dick Taylor Craft Chocolates. You know, you get to eat all the chocolate you want. At the end, it's like Willy Wonka. That was a big hit too. But now we do virtual. That's me going out in the community and videotaping some place in Humboldt that they may not know. The beauty of the field trips is that many people don't know these immigrants are here, or they don't see them because they're working 1 or 2 jobs, and they go home, they have their families, they're tired, they stay home, maybe they don't feel safe. I don't need to address that. We know what that's about. And they just kind of stay home. So English Express, we would just go out as a bubble, you know, a safe bubble in our group. But what I didn't think about as I was creating all these field trips is that it gave the longtime residents here, all of us, an opportunity to interact with them and get to know them in a really fun environment. So it really went both ways. And I'm looking forward to post-COVID when we can go back to that again. But in the meantime, virtual field trips. We are, as I said, funded by a number of different foundations. Some of those, of course, have been St. Joe's, McLean, Rose Perrin, and Headwaters. Humboldt Area Foundation has been very generous, most recently giving us a set of Chromebooks for the students who don't have technology in the home to get online with us. And fundraising has been interesting. I prefer the in-person type fundraising. However, we did just finish our first online fundraiser. So it's been a different reality with the fundraising. Our numbers are growing, and we continue to apply for grants. We'll do another fundraiser next fall. So it's as an in-person classroom teacher, it's just been a whole different reality, you know, going into Zoom teaching. But at least we made it, you know, and we're here today, and the students are very grateful. So future funding that we get right now we have enough funding almost to get through this time next year. And getting technology into the homes is a really big issue. And then training them on how to use it, because these are older students, like if I can say our age, and not all of them grow up like our children are, just it seems like second nature. They know how to work the technology. These are adults who are, say, some are young, mid-20s, 30s, but many of them are much older, even up to their 80s. And while I was listening to your meeting earlier today, I went to my piano, and this is a photo of one of my students. She lives in Fortuna. She has the English Express t-shirt and hat on. Her name is Lena. and she's considered one of the matriarchs of the local Latino community. And she's in her 80s, and she has shown up religiously for almost every class for the last 3 years in Fortuna. She does not have a Chromebook at home, so she'll be one of those people receiving a Chromebook. The other challenge is internet. Not all of them can afford to pay for internet, so that's the next thing that I will be working on. So that's my story about English Express and what we do and what we're looking at for the future. We have expanded. Humboldt Area Foundation contacted me and asked if I'd be willing to expand to their sister counties. So actually just this past October, we've expanded to Del Norte, Trinity, and Curry. So that's been very exciting for the program as well. And I love to ask that too, but I love to answer questions. So if you have any questions for me, this is a great time. Shoot away. Thank you.
I think that's great. I'm sure there are questions. I have one. How many students do you have?
Right now with the online, I'd say we have roughly 50. We've had hundreds come through over the last 4 years. It's a very transient population. And out of that student body, there have been about 30 different nationalities just here in Humboldt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to ask a question?
I do. Did you ever get the opportunity to meet the boy that you played ping pong with and you traveled?
I did not, but I run into the host family. I think some of you know Bill Schauser. Maybe. He was a science teacher for many years at Eureka High School. And at that time, he was our next door neighbor in the host family. And I run into Bill once in a while at the co-op and I ask him, and he is still in touch with both, but I have not, but I'm very tempted to. And as I get older, I feel more inclined to do that, which I think, you know, we just get older and we're like, gee, I'd really like to connect with this person and just see what they've been doing. So I'm sure I will. That's a great question. Thank you.
Hi, Mary Ann. Hi, Mary Ann. I have a dual screen, which is really fortunate, and I'm able to look at your website, and I also looked at your Facebook page, and I will post a link in our newsletter to your page. But I'm impressed that you have translations of your website available with just from a drop-down menu. That's really great for your clientele, basically.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a very good website designer. I'm not a technology person, and I have to say honestly, when COVID hit, English Express went down for a month, and it was a little bit of blood, sweat, and a lot of tears for me. I wasn't even sure I could make the transition, but I had someone on McLean Foundation, Denise Marshall, gave me a little pep talk, and she said, just think about Zoom, Mary Ann, think about Zoom, and here we are. Who knew? You know, life is just full of one amazing surprise after another. We just don't see it coming. But this has been a real blessing, because there are students who cannot come to the in-person classes because of transportation, or for example, my Afghani population has exploded, and that's because my classes are men and women. And so the women won't come if there are men in the classroom. There's all these things that we need to consider and take into account. So now that I'm online, I have all these Afghani women coming, and they don't show their face. I just see their name, but they're so grateful and very participatory. They are at every class, and they're just deeply appreciating the opportunity to learn the language in their homes. So these are all, I could just go on. There have been many blessings to going online, and after COVID, I will keep the online schedule going, because I've just, you know, welcomed so many new students having gone online. But it's the ones who've been left behind that I'm concerned about. The ones who've been with me for 4, 5, 6 years. Some were with me when I was with CR and just rolled over to English Express, and you know, getting the technology again into their homes and helping someone with them with the internet bill. Thank you.
Anybody else? Pipe in. Right. Well, I am really grateful that you were able to come and do this. Thank you. Yes, applause.
Thank you.
I had wanted to have Mary Ann drop into a couple of our other meetings and it didn't work out. And then this week we had a cancellation of our other speakers. So we were able to give her the full time, which I really appreciate. On behalf of our club, we're going to give you $250. And this is
wow.
This is money that is coming from the district. It's COVID relief funds that we got additional funding. And so I know we can offer that to you today. And I wanted to let the club know that we're going to give you that funding to help with internet or whatever you can use it for. And then, and because this is definitely a need and so important that you continue your work.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I wish it were more. I wish it were more. And you know, our club can look at what they're doing and maybe they can help you in other ways. But I know today we can do that. And
I appreciate that. That's a surprise. I wasn't expecting that. And I can tell you right now, I know exactly where it's going to go. There's a student I've had for, 5 or 6 years now. She lives down in Rio Del, single mom with 2 twin girls. And I just communicated with her recently and she'd love to be online, but doesn't have internet. So it's gonna go right to her. I've just been waiting and there it is. So thank you so much. Her name is Judith. And I know she'll be very touched and very grateful. Thank you.
yes,
And Maggie and Mary Ann, I mentioned that I'm going to publish a link to your website in the newsletter. There is a donation button on that website. So if any of you Rotarians want to make an individual donation, that's the way to do it.
And English Express is a nonprofit dream maker project of the Ink people. So your donations go straight to the Ink people. And then from there, I take the money and it goes directly to the students. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dick, for doing that and for pointing out how easy it is to do that. Technology is a wonderful thing. You know, now I could, you know, some people stay home and they shop on Amazon. I stay home and I go and give donations. We're all different. I don't need more stuff, but I find ways to spend money online just the same. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. And are there any other questions for Mary Ann this morning? Great. If not, and then, so I wanted to, we're also in your name, we're going to, I don't know what's going on here. Let's see. Can you guys see my screen?
I see it.
Okay, we're making a donation in your name to Tri-County Independent Living. They support people with disabilities of all ages and all types of disabilities. And we're going to make a donation in your name to that. And then I will get with Sophie and we'll get, I have the information I'll give to our treasurer so she can send that check to the Ink people for you.
Thank you so much.